Welcome to Filtered Thru Coffee, the podcast hosted by two dope Black officiants. As wedding officiants, we pour our hearts into every love story we tell, and this podcast is no different. So grab your favorite mug, pour yourselves a cup, and join us in rich wedding conversations that are for us, by us.
Hey everyone, welcome to Filtered Thru Coffee, the podcast where candid wedding conversations are brewed with authenticity and culture. I'm Reverend Whitney-Marie, and I'm your West Coast wedding officiant, owner and lead officiant at Rev I Do Officiating. It's a whole lot of officiating, but that's what I do. And we have my co-host, our East Coast officiant, Miss Tiara Bryant, and she is the owner of Royal Treatments with Tiara. Now, loves, I hope you have your mugs because now guess who's sipping with us today? We have the florist powerhouse, Jennifer Bernal of House of Bernal, sharing how she builds authentic connections for us and by us by using beauty of flowers and network. Welcome, sis. How you doing?
Hi, ladies. I am so excited to be with you here today. Also based because of those authentic connections. Again, we met not so long ago, a little bit about a year ago, and that connection was made through a group of people, another group of people that we had in common, and here we are, friends, colleagues, and supporting each other.
Right? I love this. So I'm excited because we were not here this time last year, right?
We
And it
were
was through
not.
those authentic connections that's bringing us full circle again. And so with that, welcome to Filtered Thru Coffee. And before we get started, I want you to tell the peoples a little bit about who you are and why you said yes to the podcast.
I love that question. And part two of the question is what I love the most. Why I say yes to the podcast. But let's start from the top. I'm Jennifer Bernal. I am the president and lead designer at the House of Bernal, wedding florals and event design in the Hudson Valley, New York. And our company focuses on creating memorable experiences for our clients and couples, for people who are passionate about flowers. They want to have flower-centric events. And that's where we come in. We are the executors of visions, ideas, and just beautiful backdrop memories for very special milestones in our clients and couple lives. And I say yes to this podcast because I believe is important for many of us that are in the wedding industry and just professionals in general to share our story. I think it's important for other people to hear that there are people just like them out here, living a life on their passion. I want other people to know that that you can make a living out of your passion. I want people to know that you can dream and that you can dream big. And I want people to know that as a female, as a minority, as a Black woman, as a veteran family, as whatever that it is that you identify yourself as, that you can be your true self out here. And you can attract the right clientele that's going to love you for you. Yes, they're coming to you because of your talents, but they're not going to ask you to be somebody else. They're not going to ask you to be who you're not. So I thought it was important to come out here and share a little bit about authenticity and how my business and my life transformed from starting a business, not knowing what I wanted my branding to be, not knowing what it would be to come out here as a colored woman, as a minority woman, and being an entrepreneur. I didn't know what that was going to be like, and I was kind of in a box. This is what society says I should be as an entrepreneur. And then my business evolved because I became aware of my own authenticity. I became aware of being genuine. And once authenticity and in being genuine was the core of my business just exponentially evolved. So I think it's important to share that. And this is why I say yes to the podcast.
Yes, amen. Okay.
love that. And I just have to comment on this before we get into Kiki's Corner, is that you spoke about dreaming again. And so that's something that is super important to me and Whitney, because honestly, Whitney helped me start dreaming again with this podcast, with my business. And I think it's important that we can, face boxes as entrepreneurs, and we're trying to figure out how do we find our uniqueness within the market. And it's just really something about nobody can dream how you dream. Right. And then from that dream, you then execute and start to make things a reality through authentic connections and just, regular grit, right? And just hard work. So I love that you touched on that. We are definitely going to get deeper into that. But before, this is our new segment. It's called Kiki's Corner, and we love it because we're going to dive into some rapid fire questions that will help couples who are wedding planning get some expert advice from you, Jennifer. Like we know you share all the time on your socials, and we love it. But this is going to go by quick. So you ready?
Look, and I'm timing it too.
Let's
all right,
do
we
it.
got a timer. Okay, so first question. What are some tips for repurposing wedding flowers from the ceremony to the reception? Or do you advise that?
That's a depend question. So with the time of the year, the weather, all that is going to impact the longevity of the flowers. So my suggestion is going to be talk to your floral designer, ask for the expert advice, because we have done it so many times that we know which mechanics to use, which designs work best. And ultimately, trust your vendor. We've done it before, and we want you to make the most of your investment with the flowers. It's not always possible, but when it is possible, we are the first ones to encourage you to do that.
I love that. That was so good. That's so good. Okay, so now how do you educate your couples on picking floral arrangements for their venue? Because we know not all venue is set the same, right? So what kind of conversation do you have with your couples to get them on the right track?
My conversation with the couple is usually starts on the vibe. Like, what do they want the wedding to feel like? What do they want the wedding to look like, in a sense? And it's not specific design details, but do you want the reception space to feel warm? Do you want it to feel welcoming? Do you want it to feel fun? Do you want it to feel bold? Do you want it to feel serious and conservative? So those keywords will help me guide the design direction. But ultimately, the canvas of the venue in itself. Does it have gold finishes? Does it have silver finishes? Does it have glass? Does it have black? Is there wood? Is there any beams? So the aesthetic of the venue in itself is going to be the canvas for the design. Also, taking in consideration the investment that the couple wants to make, because we can always completely transform a space, but do we want to transform the space, or do we want to enhance this space that's there already?
Love that.
Boom, 2 seconds left. You go.
And it's a distinct difference, right? So let's get into, how does floral installations elevate the wedding ceremony?
Oh, it's the experience, and I know the word experience may be overused, and we may not know exactly what it means, but the way I see it as a guest and as a vendor, and this is why we attend a lot of conferences and events as guests, because we get to see what the guests see. The installations elevate the look of the wedding because it engages your senses at different layers. So it's not so much of what you is what you see, is what you smell, is creating something very memorable, something that you haven't seen before. And again, engaging the senses of different layers is what makes an event memorable. This is what people are going to remember. So installations are it.
I love that. And so what are some questions, maybe give us two or so. What are some questions that couples should be asking florists before booking to ensure that their vision comes to life?
They should be asking their florist about experience, and not necessarily experience in the venue, but if the couple is experienced with the overall look, that the couple is looking for. I don't want couples to get discouraged because they don't see exactly what they're looking for in a florist. Think of it as the overall look and design style. Do they have experience with that design style? And then the second thing you want to ask your florist is, what is their process? Like, what is their actual process from booking to wedding day?
I love that. I love that. That was so good. Ooh, yes.
Yes, you are. Yes, come on.
Listen, and this is why we had to have Jen come in and give you like that real, raw, uncut, because you can see the inside. There's so much conversation I see online just about florals, DIY, getting in the Costco's, working with the florist. Should you have something really big, something very small? So our last question, rapid fire, is last minute details, like what should couples prioritize to ensure that everything is perfect for their big day? Is there something that couples should be doing? Should they just leave it to the florist and be like, y'all got it? How do they prep?
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Yes.
Wedding specific, I'm going to say, is based on our experience, weddings run the smoothest when you have a wedding planner or when you have a coordinator. A coordinator is someone that starts working with you 3 months out from the wedding. Because what I find is that some couples do not know, and you don't know what you don't know, which is if you don't have a wedding planner, you are the wedding planner. Meaning that the day of the wedding, all questions are going to come to you. If you have a wedding planner, all questions will come to the wedding planner. And inevitably, there is going to be questions. So when you don't have a wedding planner, you become the wedding planner. The other thing that I would say, if you don't have a wedding planner, is going to go back to trust. You have to trust your designer, your florist, that they're going to execute your vision within the parameters that you have provided them. And you have to be comfortable that your florist is going to put something out there that they're proud of. If your florist is passionate about what they do, they're not going to put something out there they're not proud of to have created for you. So trust your vendor, because on wedding day, there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that you will never know. But if your vendor doesn't have that little bit of freedom, it's very hard to pivot when you have to pivot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you killed that.
I love it. And I will sip to that. Look.
Yeah. So good.
Cafe.
Okay. So one of the things that I find is beautiful is everybody has a story. Everybody has a story as to their why. I'm curious, did the House of Bernal happen first? Or is the House of Bernal and what you are creating, is it a launch of, hey, this is my passion or this is my purpose? Like, what's the inspiration behind your story, and which came first, the brand or your dream? That's the question.
Oh, wow. This is interesting. I love this. This is different than I ever done before. The story came first, and the story came first because values. I did not think I was going to get emotional. What is going on?
I love it. I love that.
The story came first. I am a first generation immigrant. Was born and raised in the Dominican Republic, and in my teenage years, my parents decided that we were all coming to live to the United States for a number of different reasons, right? People do not leave a place that they call home because they want to leave a place that they call home. I want to prelude by saying that, because everything that I ever knew, I mean, I visited the United States before, but I had a home, I had an education, I had my family, I had pets, I had a garden in the house that I grew up with. And overnight, we're no longer in that place. Overnight, we're no longer in the place. And when I came to live to the United States, I always remember that my mission and my goal was always that I was going to get an education. I was going to get an education and I was going to work in the government. or for the government. And I say this because coming from a third world country, working for the government was the goal. It was the ideal because that was the job that was going to guarantee a career, and that was the career that was going to guarantee that your family had food on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, coming from a third world country, you can get an education, but the opportunities are just not existent, even if you get an education. So in my head, it was always, my parents brought me to the United States to get a college education. I'm going to get a government job, and that's going to check all my boxes. That's going to check the food, the shelter, the basic needs. But then it comes a time, and you may have heard of this, there is in psychology, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a pyramid. And that pyramid at the bottom has, the larger needs that the human being needs, right? At the bottom, it should be, I don't remember, quote unquote, but at the bottom are your basic needs, right? Your shelter, safety, food, etc., etc. Once you have those things fulfilling your life, not everyone achieves self-actualization, which is that top of the pyramid, which is all your needs are covered, but you're still kind of feeling that something is missing up here. But anyway, long story short, after, having to deal with the immigrant experience of language barrier, culture, leaving everything behind. There was no social media at that time. There was no Facebook. There was none of that. Maybe I didn't have access to a cell phone, or my friends were left behind. A lot of my family was behind. So I started this journey of education. Shortly after coming to live in the United States, I just, wasn't able to afford college, which is why I came here for. Wasn't able to afford college, had to drop out from college for about 6 years. Started working full time. In the meantime, I had a child. I was a single mother. I am a domestic violence survivor. And with all of those things, it finally came that I was in the right place at the right time, and I got that government job. Some 18 years after I immigrated to the country. A lot of things happened in 18 years. And then I landed that government job. Goosebumps. And I had the house, and I had the car, and I had the pension, and I had the benefits, and I had all those things. But I was very unhappy. And I had to take a step back. This was pandemic time. I had to take a step back because I was second guessing myself. I was thinking to myself, wait a second, am I just being ungrateful? Am I letting my parents down? Because this is what they wanted from me my whole life, and I have it. And now I have this very feeling of emptiness. I'm feeling like this is really not what I'm meant to do. And don't get me wrong, I was very good at my job. I was excellent at my job, but my soul just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And after working full time, on any given day, I would come home and I start working with flowers. And flowers felt good. Flowers felt like therapy. Flowers felt like healing. Even after working for 12 hours a day, they felt good. And what started as a passion project, and this is why I always like to hone in on the dreaming. What started as a passion project but I registered the business right away. I created a website, I created an online shop, and all these different things. It made me realize that I just couldn't believe my life without flowers. I just couldn't believe I had a whole life without flowers before. Even though I had great connection to flowers, from growing up in the Dominican Republic, from my mother gardening. I've never been a gardener, but my mother gardened, and she always, always, always got me flowers. Like, I have a very, very vivid memory of my 16th birthday, and my mother getting me a really large basket of spray roses. And I'm a floral designer now, and I look back and say, wow, that must have cost her a fortune. But it wasn't the money behind it. It was what it meant. It was the value behind it. It was how those flowers made me feel at that time, and how I still 22 years later, because I was 16 at the time, how I still remember that very vividly. So anyway, it was started as a passion project, as a healing project, as so many different things that happen in one's life led me to the point where I sat down with my husband, then fiance, and I said, I really think I want to pursue this full time, and I don't want to wait for retirement, and I don't want to wait for, I don't want to wait, because life is now. And again, this is during the pandemic. Like, who's starting a business during the pandemic? We were, and so many other people were too, because it was kind of like a realization of we always knew we never had it tomorrow, but like we really did not know we had it tomorrow. So it was sometimes you need a catalyst, and what happens around the world could be on a mass scale like the pandemic, but it could also be something in your inner circle, in your inner world. Sometimes you need a catalyst that's going to just like literally push you off the edge. And that was it for me. And my husband, again at that time, my fiance said, okay, you should do it. And I'm like, okay. I mean, wow. My daughter at the time was 13, something like that. And even my daughter said, these migraines that you have, like, I can talk to you when you have migraine. You got to do something about that. So, a combination of soul searching, a combination of feeling physically ill based on the environment that was no longer feeling my soul. Yeah, and then branding came after that.
Love that. That is such an amazing like origin story, just because it's like it's layered, right? Because it's like you have those memories of when you were back in DR and the impact, culturally that had on your life, on top of just your experience with like flowers and how that became a safe space for you once you came over here. And we think that we've accomplished the American dream. I think there's always like this false sense of like what the American dream like really is for people who migrate to this country, and even for people who are already in this country. Like, we're trying to accomplish that and get to that American dream as well. So I love that you shared about your background and the impact that it had. And as a Latina woman entrepreneur, I'm sure you face unique challenges in the wedding industry. So talk about, maybe if you feel comfortable sharing, what maybe a couple of those were and how did you overcome them?
Another interesting question.
You're an interesting person, girl. We trying to get all the deep.
We had to bring out our homework for you. We said, come on now. It is the House of Bernal.
I think it's more of a projection in a sense. There are true challenges out there, but some of these challenges may start with projection, meaning that we have to constantly work on confidence, because changing career paths from over a decade working for not-for-profit government, I got my master's degree to pursue that job in government, and from changing that career, this very structured, very straight lines and whatnot, to a career where you have to literally build it from scratch. I didn't have anybody in my family being a florist. I didn't have anybody in my family being an entrepreneur to the level that we have got, and I just didn't have an inheritance. We started this from absolutely nothing. And self-doubt of, am I who I say I am? Am I this floral designer? Am I capable of doing this? Do I have the skills? Do I have the talent? I knew I had the passion, and I knew that I'm overall a very disciplined person, and very perseverance is there for me. I mean, with all the challenges from the previous life, resiliency is there, but I had to work on my own education. I had to start from from the beginning. I had to go back and start from the beginning, getting education of floral design to then get that confidence and understand, yes, I'm confident. Yes, I can sell this. Yes, I can do this. Because when you're shaky, when you speak, validation or trust, it's hard to get trust from somebody else when you sound like you're shaky. But it may not necessarily be that you don't know what you're doing or you don't know what you're talking about, but your mind games. Your mind is playing games with you. So one of the challenges that I faced was, coming across as an actual professional, like knowing what I'm doing. And then because we are a minority in the industry as well, you have to, in a sense, and I'm going to speak from my experience, you have to, in a sense, you don't start at the same line. If it was a race, although it's not a race, but if it was a race and you have, a number of people on the same line, we're not starting at the same line. We're starting steps back. We're starting steps back because, the language, because of the culture, because of plain and simple. And I know we're in 2024, and I'm just going to say it, because of what we look like. We may come across as, it's not so many of us out here doing this. I don't know any other born and raised Dominicans in my whole area that are doing floral design at the scale that we're doing it. So it could be a little bit of skepticism out there from other people. But with education, getting the practice in, and just keep going and keep showing up. Keep showing up. You can't show up and goes. You have to be consistent and so projection, starting from the inside, starting with your confidence, then you project that confidence, and I'm not gonna say it's a straightforward shot to clients to trust you, but you are on the right path when you start really projecting that you have the foundation that you need.
That was so good.
That
was so good. It would have dropped right in my lap.
Oh, your ladies are so sweet.
No, that was it. Whitney, I'm gonna let you go, but I just have to give to. I think that one thing that gravitated me towards you, just as a fellow pro, as someone who is literally just like in awe, right, of like how you show up and how you lean into your authenticity. I just appreciate you sharing that it started off as like a little bit of self-doubt, a little bit of like, I know I can do it, but will people receive me doing this? And sometimes, like you said, it's internal, right? It's not that we're not capable. It's not that we don't have the skill set. It's not that we can't learn, right? It's that how am I going to be received? And sometimes that is where the hurdle like really lies. So one, thank you for being transparent, about that. And as someone who I need to stop claiming this per se, but I will always speak to my own imposter syndrome and, these moments where I don't think that I am, good enough or capable, and knowing that it's about investing in yourself, investing in your education, investing in your community, investing in your networking, investing in your skill set. That is going to really make that difference for you. And then because you've moved past that imposter syndrome or that self-doubt or that lack of confidence, now you show up extra confident because you know what I mean? Like, what you've been through, and beyond what you've been through, you were honest about it and you did the work to be able to push through that. So like now, can't nobody tell you nothing. And we love that. But I just had to say that. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Winnie.
And continuing to hold those flowers, right?
Right.
What are some of the key lessons that you've learned about leadership and business growth while building this empire? I'm claiming it and calling it House of Bernal.
Yes, I love that. Community over competition, it's oversaid, but I want to hone in on that. Like, what does it mean? What does it mean, community over competition? Well, first of all, we wouldn't be having this podcast if it wasn't about community, right?
Okay.
Community over competition is important because I know that when you're starting a business or when you are evolving your business, or just generally speaking, when you're trying to maintain your business, you have to be aware of your market. You have to be aware of who's out there offering a similar service that you are. The so-called competition. But I've learned early in my journey as an entrepreneur that you have to eliminate the competition. And I don't mean eliminate the competition like physically. I mean in your head. You have to eliminate the competition in your head, because there's only one Jennifer Bernal. There's only one Tiara. There's only one Whitney. So even though Whitney and Tiara are both officiants, you have very different styles. You have very different personalities. You are in different geographical locations. So inherently, your circle is not going to be the same. You may have similar, acquaintances in your circles, but your circles are not inherently the same. So one of the lessons is community over competition, eliminating the competition in your head, because there's only one you, and only you can deliver how you deliver the services that you provide. So by understanding that your fellow floral designer is not your competition, but they are part of your community, then you build this web of connections. Like it's I wish I could draw a web of connections with, for the sake of argument, House of Bernal in the center. These are the officiants that we know. These are the venue owners that we know. These are the other floral designers that we know. These are the photographers, the videographers, the hair and makeup. And then these are other entrepreneurs that are not in the wedding industry. These are people that I know from my previous career. These are people that I know from like family connections. The web is so large. It just keeps expanding and expanding and expanding. And what happens is that when you, as the center of your circle, have this web, everybody else in your circle, in a sense, get access to that web. So if all of the people in your web have this expandable web, you just create this community that's like unstoppable. So with that said, we can't take every job. We're just humanly not possible for us to take every single job. 1, 2, we're not going to be the best fit for everyone. And then 3, there are so many people out there, so many vendors out there that have a niche. There's so many clients that have the right vendor for them. It's out there. So when you have these connections, you feel comfortable to refer a client to another person, or another person feels comfortable to refer a client to you. So it only works in everybody's interest to have this community over competition. In addition to that, which I posted this yesterday or this morning when I got home from the previous job, which is none of us floral designers have been able to get where we are. It doesn't matter who you are or how famous you are. None of us got here by ourselves. You might be the face of the company, but we didn't get here by ourselves, because it's impossible for one single person to execute a wedding floral design.
Absolutely.
You need a team of people. And you know who's that team of people? Your colleagues, the people that you know, the people that they know that they know that they know. So number one thing is going to be community over competition.
I love that. I definitely love that. And one of the things that is interesting is that's how I got started. I didn't know what I was doing. And some venue was like, "Hey, we need your insurance." And I was like State Farm? Like, what do you mean? And I didn't know where to go. I called State Farm too. Like, do y'all do officiant insurance? They're like, "Nah, baby, we only do auto." And so I reached out to a brother, Chris from Customary Weddings, your custom ceremony. I fixed it, Chris. In Los Angeles. And I called him up and I said, "Hey, you don't know me, but you will. But I do have a question." And we've been tight ever since. And not even tight in the sense of like he literally helped me get my life together, as in the insurance piece. But when I'm unable to officiate a wedding, he is my go-to. I only have one other person who, some people are like, "Oh, if I couldn't have you, then who else?" Like within my area, he's my go-to. And recognizing when I first started, he was 80% of my business.
Wow.
I didn't know nobody. And so I'm with you with that community piece over competition. I've lived that. And so I'm glad to know that that's something that's still alive and still works, especially for us.
Oh yeah.
And I find also, one thing that I found is most people, okay, you know what they said about the law of attraction. You come out here, and depending on your personality, your vibe, and whatever, people are going to naturally gravitate or not gravitate towards you.
Mm-hmm.
And I have yet to find the first person that I reached out to asking a question who told me, no, you gotta find the answer somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, I mean, there are naysayers out there, but you just gotta, keep moving. For the most part, successful people want to help other people succeed. Like, people want other people to experience this. Going back to the American dream. The American dream means different things for different people. Like, for me, and I always say this, my definition of success may be different than your definition of success. It may be different than somebody else's definition of success. So for me, that quote unquote American dream that I had checked all the boxes to, that wasn't it. Like, for me, my American dream is being able to be having coffee on a Tuesday afternoon with, colleagues and friends. The definition of the American dream is, being able to drop my daughter at school. It's being able to employ my daughter in my business, being able to, go out with my husband and spend some quality time, whatever it means, traveling to these wedding conferences. There's nothing wrong with defining your own, what is your definition of success, creating your own definition of success. There's absolutely nothing wrong. To me, that's the American dream. Defining your own success. What does success mean to you? Whatever it means to you, that's your American dream. And in my life with Florals allows me to do that. It allows me to define success. It allows me to live and have a lifestyle that I want. And by lifestyle, I don't mean anything. If it's lavish, it's lavish. If it's not lavish, it's not. Whatever it is, you can define that, and you can keep reinventing yourself. That's what I love the most. You can reinvent yourself as many times as you want. You can evolve. You can go left, right, back, forth, whatever. When I started my journey as an entrepreneur, the reason why that self-doubt is in there for many of us is because being an entrepreneur was never an option. It was never an option when we were growing up. Why? Because our families didn't have the cushion that you need to fall back on while you're learning to be an entrepreneur. Because when you're being an entrepreneur, at least for us, it hasn't been a straight line. It's a lot of figuring it out because nobody else in our family was an entrepreneur. So we're figuring things as we go, and we just don't have that cushion to fall back on when the seasonality of the income in the wedding industry hits us. We didn't know that. We didn't have anything to fall back on. So being an entrepreneur was never an option. And that's why some of that self-doubt, what's in there too. Because it was never an option.
That is such a good point, because a lot of the times we don't come from families of entrepreneurs, right? And so it is a lot of like that huge learning curve that we have to take that time to be able to figure out. And it's, amazing mentors out there, coaches and programs, and like those opportunities are really great. But then when you're not on, FaceTime or whatever, on your conference call, or someone calls you and now you have to like put out this fire in your business, it's like, how do I do that? Well, one of the things that I love that you mentioned was about reinventing yourself, right? And so I don't think that we understand that we have permission to do that. And by permission, meaning we ain't got to ask nobody. We just give we just give ourselves permission.
Yes.
Yeah, like
yes.
Now let me call somebody up and be like, hey, can I be, this today? Can I be this version of Tiara today? No, I wake up and I decide that this version is no longer suited me. It's not my definition of success. It's not my definition of, an American dream. And so now I can pivot, and I give myself permission to pivot. So one of the things I would love for you to talk about along those lines is how do you lean into your authenticity, right? How do you rebrand yourself? How do you find your uniqueness and let that be not even your selling point, right? That's your gravitational pull. That's what's bringing people to you. So how do you lean into that? How do you find that? How did you find that?
Your ways.
I
Yes.
love that gravitational pull. And interesting that you mentioned that, because I had a conversation this last week with a colleague in Buffalo that mentioned just that. And I think it goes back to the basics, your values, because your values, like for me, it was always education. It was always integrity. It was always discipline. It was always showing up with your best foot every single day, even though your best foot today may not have been the same as yesterday, but showing with your best foot every single day. So leaning into your values makes the transition so much easier from being an entrepreneur to your daily life. Because I find that if your core values as an individual do not align with your core values in your business, you're kind of living two lives. And it's very demanding, it's draining to be living two lives. This is why authenticity is important, because when you focus on your core values as an individual and you make those core values be the foundation of your business, there's no turning on and off a switch of now it's me, now it's the business owner. It's always the same person. Of course you're going to pivot and you're going to adjust your styles depending on the setting where you're at. There's no question about that. But when you focus on your core values as an individual and you bring that into your business, then you are going to find that what you do is so fulfilling. Because of course we're providing a service to a couple, to a client. We're there to provide their service and create a memory for them. But ultimately, I'm a firm believer that there's absolutely nothing wrong with filling your cup while you fill somebody else's. It is it's off and it's difficult to manage, and you burn out and you live a very unfulfilling life when you're continuously pouring into somebody else's cup and leaving yours empty. So I found with my career change that once I started filling my cup, I was able to do a much better job. And even though I was doing a great job before, I just feel so much better at doing what I do. Now I wake up every morning and I'm motivated to be out here doing what I do. You know, when you're lacking motivation, when you're burnt out, when you're feeling physically ill, there's a disconnect. And I think females have this superpower, and I'm going to say human nature in general, but females have this very superpower, which is called intuition. And even before modern society, intuition was always something that we used to lean on. And I think it's important to lean in that intuition and become aware when your body and your mind are telling you that something is off. Like for me, my mind and my body were telling me something was off because I was feeling ill. I was not content. I became aware that I wasn't myself anymore. So by filling my cup, I'm able to just give my clients a 1,000%. Like really, really give them the 1,000%. So honing into your values, you know, if it's education, if it's punctuality, if it's integrity, whatever it is, bring that into your business. And your colleagues that have similar values will see that in you, and they will want to connect with you, and you will want to connect with other people like that. Same thing with clients. Whatever is important to you, you got to make sure that you put it out there, and you put it out there constantly, because those clients that value those things will be gravitating towards you. Something as simple as pets, for example. Like 99% of our couples have dogs, right? We are animal lovers. And the fact that we have 2 dogs and most of our couples have dogs, I don't think it's coincidence. Right?
No, that's true. And they probably, again, gravitate towards you because of that, and because of, like, now you have something to talk about, right? We learned that as officiants, we need to connect with our couples on a deeper level, not just, hey, what's your vision for your wedding? But like, hey, let me learn about you as a person, learn a little bit about me as a person. And what they say, people typically purchase from who they like, know, and trust. So you're building that level of, again, authenticity. You're showing exactly who you are and who you are behind the person behind the business, right? The face behind the flowers. And you do that so well. But I love how you show up on social media. I feel like that really helped me learn more about you and like your business. And not only that, I find myself learning more about flowers. I ain't even gonna hold you.
The one flower that you gotta put the stick in to listen. I was listening too. I said, "Oh, that's how I do it."
Yes.
But it's like this is how you stand out in a crowded market, because there's a lot of people going back to the dreams, to the very beginning of this podcast, which is dreaming. There's a lot of people that have a dream of whatever the dream is, and they're afraid to pursue their dream because they think, oh, I'm gonna be another officiant in a world of officiant. I'm gonna be another florist in the world of florists. But what they don't know is, when you are authentic and you're genuine, everybody else becomes irrelevant. And it's not that they're not important. Yes, they're important, but their clients are not your clients, and your clients are not their clients, because people will gravitate towards you for who you are. Yes, they want the service that you're going to provide. No question about that. That's what they're here for. But do you want to be doing business with someone that you relate to, or you want to be doing business with someone who feels like a complete stranger the whole time?
Yeah. No, that's so true. I love that. That was so good. So good.
Absolutely. And so, what strategies would you say that you use to cultivate this authenticity and these connections and these partnerships in your network? Like, how do you do the things that you do? Both in and outside of the wedding industry. Like, how do you do this?
It has to be intentional.
Okay.
To me, it can be something that you're going to live to. Yes, you have to be faithful to your dreams, but you have to be intentional into cultivating your relationships and cultivating authenticity. One thing that I started doing some time ago was setting intention at the beginning of the day. Something very simple. Like, a lot of us open our eyes, and the first thing that we do is check our phones. And I started changing that a little bit into, the first thing that I do when I open my eyes is set intention for the day. I know I have a calendar of things and tasks that I'm going to get through. I set intention into those things, or I set intention into what I want my week to look like, or what I want the next quarter to look like. And it doesn't have to be in any particular order. You wake up in the morning and you set intention for whatever it is that you want to set intention. But you have to be intentional and aware of creating these connections. And as an entrepreneur, I think it's very easy to get caught up into the doing, and not taking a step back and becoming the president of your company. A lot of us have taken a lot of time and effort into learning the actual craft, which is wonderful, but we also need to learn how to be president of our companies. And when you're too busy being the employee of your own company, you forget that you're the CEO. And when you are the CEO of your company, there are roles that you perform that your employees do not perform, because there are just different tasks that need to be accomplished. So with the intentionality of coming out here and creating connections, we have to learn to delegate certain tasks, and then for us to take on the task of being CEOs of our companies, and being intentional about doing research of where are the networking events, being intentional about who is attending that networking event. Is that networking event the right event for me, for my business, for my community? Because a lot of the people that I know that I meet at the networking events, they're not necessarily as a me egotistic thing. They are people who I meet, and then my couples ask me for a referral, and then I know who to call. I know who to send them to. So being intentional, a little bit of meditation in there, and then taking a step back and becoming the president of your company, learning to delegate. Uh, Nothing wrong with being an employee of a company, because there are different layers into having a business. But once I took a step back and focus a little bit more into being the president of my company, I saw those connections like growing rapidly too.
That's so good. And it's important that you made that distinction, because it needs to be made, right? Like, we always hear about like delegate. And it's like, I don't know what to delegate. I don't know what to tell them to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, you know what I mean? It's like almost like you take so much and you put it all on your shoulders. And as a solopreneur, before you even have a team, you have to come in with that mindset like, I don't want to do all of these things. I want there to be a distinction between an employee of the business, the actual business, and the business owner, founder, CEO, president, whatever title, you want to take on, but just understanding that there has to be a differentiation there between what I'm doing and what, my business is doing, and what I'm doing for my business as the business owner to grow it, to push it forward to the future. And I would love to talk about, what are some of your future aspirations for House of Bernal? Like, how do you envision continuing to make this impact on your community, for the culture, and in your specific vendor type or expertise?
I know that you ladies are full of wonderful questions that got me like on fire thinking right away. Interesting enough, the rebranding to House of Bernal was very intentional into the future. So
Okay,
even though
share.
House of Bernal in itself, as a name for the business, has been around for a little bit over 6 months. The business in itself has been around for 3 years, but House of Bernal as that branding, it was very, very intentional into the future. And I can go on into branding and what the logo means and the open doors and the colors and all that good stuff. But some of our aspirations are, wedding venue, event space. We have been doing some research about that. We would really love to expand our couples experience beyond the flowers. We want to expand into the full hospitality. That's one of our goals. Another one of our goals is definitely education. Education in public speaking. I feel that speaking in public would have a larger impact on the population that needs to hear the information. There are, after attending the Wedding MBA, for example, last year, and being in a room with 5,000 people, I see the impact that it had on me as an entrepreneur, as an individual. And somehow, even if I haven't been necessarily actively pursuing it and looking for it, I'm just getting so many messages and questions and strangers reaching out because they want to hear more, they want to learn more, and they keep asking me to do public speaking. So I think that we're definitely going into that trajectory of, sharing the story, sharing tips, sharing how we did it, and just helping people on a larger scale again, because, there are people out there who are afraid to dream, and they need to see a familiar face. They need to see someone who they feel, they can put themselves in their shoes. And, Tiara and I talked about this before, which is, it's wonderful to see many leaders speaking out there, but some of us cannot relate to those leaders. And we cannot relate to those leaders because we just don't have a similar background or story or life. And although I'm very happy for you as a leader with what you have accomplished, and I applaud you, I just can't relate to your story. So with some of us that have other people like that cannot relate to those leaders, then we have to become those leaders. It's almost like it's our duty to become those leaders, to continue to uplift other people. I see it as, and again, Tiara and I talked about it not long ago, which is some of us, through being at the right place at the right time, through effort, through experience, through connections, through everything that we have done, we found a bridge. We found a bridge to cross. And I feel that it's our duty to leave the door open on that bridge and just continue to let people climb up with us. And so venue, education, public speaking, food production company, who knows?
Exciting.
Who knows?
I love that. That is exciting.
So listening to all of this, right, and dreaming again. One of the things that I've always lived by is be who I needed when I was younger, right? Because representation
Yes.
matters. And it looks
Goosebumps.
like we are doing just that, y'all. Like, you needed to see somebody who looked like you on TikTok with some flowers. And I'm like, wow, that is her. I know her. Like, it's all of that. And so, what other ways do you see House of Bernal contributing and shaping the cultural landscape of the wedding industry? Not just florists, we talking the wedding industry.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that question because there's flowers and there's flowers. It's not just the product in itself. It's how we portray ourselves, how we show up, how we dress, how we speak, how we act. And we're not putting on a show. This is who we are.
Yeah.
So I think that when we come out here and we create these connections and we create these beautiful weddings and we work as a team, we leave an impact on the client. We leave an impact on the guest, but we also leave an impact. We leave a footprint with our other vendor friends, right?
Mhm.
And vendor friends tell all the vendor friends about you. And I tell all the vendor friends about you guys and all the vendors that I know. So between education and going into hospitality, didn't mention, but it's something else that's in the making that I've been talking to some other colleagues, again, who are not in the wedding industry. They're colleagues that I met in college several years ago and are in completely different industry. But we've been chatting about starting a women group of some sort in the Hudson Valley. And this is in the very stages. This is like in the brainstorming stages. We haven't really defined what this is going to look like. We haven't defined anything about it. This is just sitting down with some colleagues and talking about how women and girls in the Hudson Valley need this, going back to the story, seeing people that look like you, seeing people that have similar challenges to you, how they overcame those challenges, what are the strategies they put in place, that we put in place. So in the wedding industry, by showing up and showing up, and also by continuing to build those connections, because not everyone, we meet people in the wedding industry, but then they have their inner circle who are people who are not in the wedding industry. So possibly a group of, do not know, some sort. This is like early brainstorming.
Listen, and I must say that it is beautiful to see you dream inside a dream, right? I mean, it's just wonderful to witness that you're also, dreaming is contagious.
It is.
And it's nice to have folks around you who have caught that bug, right? So you said we're not wedding pros, we are women in the Hudson Valley. We about to dream a space that doesn't exist yet. And we're gonna create it. So listen, brava, proud of the dreaming that I just witnessed. You're like, look, well, we don't know, but we dreaming. And I love that. And so thank you for sharing that here on Filtered Thru Coffee. Y'all heard it here.
Oh, you're amazing. This was wonderful.
All the exclusives. Yeah.
This is so wonderful. I love this. You made me tell all the exclusives.
That's how you know that you're a good interviewer.
You didn't make me tell you. This is such a good space that I just feel so comfortable into sharing with you, because I know you're happy to see this happening. I'm sure there's going to be people in your circle that are going to be happy to possibly be part of. And you know what? Months down the line, weeks down the line, when this is published and everyone is listening to this, I'm sure there's going to be people out there that can relate. And in one other speaking engagement that I did in the past, there was a lady who said the following and just stuck to me. And she said that if you're able to provide somebody, one person, something of value, you can literally change that person's life. So while we do providing something of value, any of what we spoke today can resonate with somebody else. And that person finds that as something of value, it can literally change their life.
Yeah.
So yes, this was wonderful. I'm so happy to have shared the space with you.
So glad you felt safe and held well here. Because that is the point of Filtered Thru Coffee. We are holding us well in the wedding space. So that is the ultimate flower. So look at she giving my flowers.
I know, I love it. Okay, so speaking of flowers, and this is a little bit of a layered question, but I know you spoke of it like, there's flowers and then there's flowers, right? What is your like floral design style, and how do you stay true to your designs while incorporating your couple's ideas? And for a little bonus, how do you think your cultural background has influenced your style of floral design?
Love, love, love. There are flowers and there are flowers. And I say this because you would give, or if you give the same ingredients, a flower recipe, X number of flowers. If you give a flower recipe to Jennifer, to Tiara, and Whitney, they're each going to create something different. Same ingredients, they're going to create something different. Mm-hmm. So if you had asked me this question about what was my design style 3 years ago, I would not know how to answer that question. Mm-hmm. But now I do. Through practice, through what I feel the happiest creating into what I do best. Yes. Which is garden style, very organic design, lush greenery, and our designs make you feel like the outdoors is inside. And that has a lot to do with upbringing. It has a lot to do with our geographical location and the geographical location of the couples that we serve. Most of our couples do not live in our area. They come from other areas specifically for what we have to offer, which is that in nature space. Most of our couples, we are located in the Hudson Valley, New York, not technically upstate, but it is about an hour and a half from New York City. And most of our couples come from cities to be in touch with nature. So most of our venues have outdoor ceremony spaces. And even the indoor ceremony spaces have this very grand open window concept that even though you're inside, you can still see the beautiful scenery from the outside. Mm-hmm. Because of our geographical location, again, background, I grew up in an island with gardens, and I remember walking barefoot on the grass and all that good stuff. That has influenced our design style to be very organic, to feel grown in place, nothing extremely structured, but rather loose. It's almost like if you're in a garden and you have, roses creeping, right? Mm-hmm. They tend to adapt to whatever structure is around them. So our design styles are very similar, where they tend to adapt to, the venue space. We complement the venue space rather than transform the space. We can transform spaces, but our style is complementing the spaces. And how do we stay true to that with our clients? I'm going to say by showing it, by showing it and saying no. Saying no very politely. Yeah. If the design style that the couple is looking for, it's not our design style, and it's not, again, we can execute it, but it's not necessarily our design style. So by staying true to the brand and saying no to design styles that do not align with that, we're able to maintain a portfolio that is consistent. Yeah. And I know when you're first starting a business, it's very hard to say no. Yeah. Because once you don't know your style, 2, you feel like you really need the money, let's be honest. And then 3, you don't have the confidence to say no. But once you get to that point that, okay, we have a brand, we have a portfolio to keep consistent. This design style does not align with our branding. We will politely say no, but that's where the connections come in, because then you have a colleague that does have that design style, so you can refer this couple, right? I believe that every couple deserves the best vendor fit for their needs.
Yeah.
So if I'm not the best fit, that doesn't mean I'm not excelling at what I do. We're just not the best fit for each other. If I'm not the best fit, I'm going to recommend somebody who is the best fit for the job. So yes, we naturally, by keeping the portfolio consistent, we've been able to naturally attract couples who love what they see rather than they want us to change and do something completely different than what they see. I'm not saying that it's going to be the same, like one wedding is going to be the same to another, but the design style, the technique is similar, but your color palette is going to be unique. The concept is going to be unique. The venue is going to be unique. Every wedding is going to be unique because there's going to be intention behind every wedding, and the intention is different for every wedding.
So what I love about what you're saying is it sounds like authenticity. That's what it circles back around to. It is holding and it showed up in different ways. You called it values. You said, be consistent, right? And I'm watching authenticity take shape in a way that I hadn't even held on to before. So I thank you for not only coming and sharing, but schooling too as well. And so I'm curious how you strike that balance of preserving floral practices with these innovative techniques and trends to stay relevant in this ever evolving market. How do you strike that balance?
It's challenging. It's very challenging. It's very challenging because there's a lot of comparison. Human beings naturally tend to look to the side and compare. And I'm going to take a step back every single time. If I catch myself doing that, because we have to be aware, if I ever catch myself doing that, I take a step back. I take a step back because the balance between what is everybody else doing, what is true to me, but I also want to stay relevant, right? And the generation that we're serving, it's a very challenging balancing act. But I think by always using your core values as a foundation, your design style and whatnot, and then perhaps incorporating in layers, not necessarily to completely transform, unless that's what you want to do. I mean, if you want to completely transform, you can do that too. There's no right or wrong. That's the beauty about this, that there's just no right or wrong. What's right, what feels right. So you can transform completely. That's what you want. If today you want to do one thing and tomorrow you want to do something else, that's up to you. For us, remaining consistent and then perhaps incorporating some trending elements in layers rather than completely transforming what we're doing is challenging, but it's doable. And we have been able to manage by doing that, like incorporating layers, because we're creative, right? And we also are curious, and we also want to try. And it keeps you alive. It keeps you on your toes. It keeps you with the adrenaline when you're trying something new, or when you're incorporating something new into your design style and your business. But again, you don't necessarily have to completely change what you do and what you believe to keep up with the trends.
Do you remain speechless to where I'm just like, okay.
No, I love that. And I have to highlight.
So valuable.
Yeah, I have to highlight one thing that you said. You said when I start to feel comparison, I stop and I take a step back, right? And I have to highlight this not only for fellow business owners, not only for, wedding pros, but also for our couples, right? Because we see all of this happening where we're looking at celebrities and we're looking at Pinterest and we're looking at our budget and we realizing that those things aren't really, connecting the way that we think that they would. And then there starts to be a little bit of this comparison, and I wish it was like this and I wish it was like that. So I'm going to encourage you to take Jennifer's advice. And when you start to feel that comparison come in, take a step back and realign, remember what it is that you're doing, why it is that you're doing this, and that you're uniquely showing up for your partner, for your business, for yourself. And I'm just glad that you highlighted that, because some people don't know what to do with comparison, right? They start to feel it. And like you said, it's a natural human emotion. And it's like, okay, now that I feel this way, where do I go from here? So know that there's nothing wrong with taking that step back and realigning yourself, what you got going on, and making sure that you go back to what your values are and how you want to, present yourself, whether it's your wedding, whether it's your business. So I just had to say that. I just had to throw that out there.
Yes.
But that it's so important.
And you ultimately, I find that, speaking from my experience and talking to other fellow wedding pros, which is the wedding industry for floral designers, it's a creative art. And every artist is going to want to do their best for the couple that they're working at the time. So with trends, with budgets, with visions and whatnot, when you find the right fit, the most important thing is the right fit. Once you find the right fit, the artist is going to want to work with you to create your dream wedding, whatever your dream wedding means, because you align and you connect at so many other layers that the artist becomes so invested in your wedding. Your artist become invested in your wedding as you are invested in your wedding. Yeah. That's why being the right fit is important, because we all been in an office, at the bank, motor vehicles, at the doctor's office, whatever. We all been in an instance where the person who was providing the service, we all knew that person wasn't happy to be there. We all had that experience in our life at some point. How did that make you feel? How did it impact your day? How did it impact your week? It could impact you. It could trigger and it could trickle down for days, for weeks, for months, depending on what service that person is providing. So with that said, getting the right fit for your vendor, your wedding vendor, whatever your wedding vendor is that you're looking for, if you have the right vendor, you're going to guarantee to have a wonderful and memorable experience, because that vendor is going to be so invested. And this is why it's important. And it's not selfish to take care of yourself as a vendor and fill your cup in order to be able to fill somebody else's cup.
Yeah. That was so full circle. So I would love to ask, and this is our last question, were there any questions that we didn't ask that you wished we had?
Oh, this is like a job interview.
Yes, sure.
You didn't ask this question, but we touched a little bit upon it, which is, what would I do different if I had to start all over again?
I love that. Absolutely.
Like, if I had to start all over again, what would I do different? And I think there's a foundation that entrepreneurs need to have. And it may surprise some people because it's not learning the craft in itself.
Right.
It's not learning the craft that you're going to be servicing your couples and your clients for. If I had to do things all over again, I would start on my core foundation, which is learning how to sell, sales, branding, because a lot of us start and we don't have a brand and then we have to rebrand. Sales, branding. You need an attorney on your team. And you need an accountant in your team. A lot of us we want to wear all these hats at once. There's one more. I'm sorry. I said the accountant, your insurance agent. So you need like a 5 core, which is, sales, branding, your attorney, your accountant, and your insurance. Because any one of those things, you've been building and you've been evolving and you are creating something so special for you, for your family, for your couples. But any one incident can overnight pivot everything that you have built.
Yeah.
If you don't have a solid contract, one incident can pivot your whole empire.
Yeah.
If your numbers are wrong and you get let's say, for example, you get a fine from the IRS, a very high fine from the IRS, that may completely ruin your business. So I would say it's very important to be passionate and know how to do your craft. But I would work on the foundation.
Yeah.
I will work on the foundation from the beginning.
Knowing how to
on
run
those
your
5
business.
core foundations. Yes.
Yeah, that was good.
And that's probably a podcast for another day. Those
Listen,
5.
and we will have you back, okay? We can have you back. Whitney, you're on mute, but I just wanted to open up the space. Jennifer, thank you so much. We are just so incredibly grateful to have taken up some of your time, to have taken in a lot of your wisdom, and for this conversation to I highlight that you are a florist, yes, but that you are an educator and you're a connector and you live your life so authentically that it empowers others to live the same way just by you being you. Just by you sprinkling your magic, waving your wand, whatever you want to call it, but just by you showing up and practicing what you preach, right? You speak so much about authenticity, but then you turn around and you live your life authentically. We love that. We love a consistent queen.
Hey, queen. The word that I love that you used as well, because you said I'm consistent.
Yeah.
This me all day, every day.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. That was what consistent meant to me. Go for it.
You're wonderful. I had a great time. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's an honor for me to be here and be sharing this space with you and sharing with all your wonderful listeners. We really truly live by community over competition, and we love not just creating connections, but this is part of nurturing your connections. You have to nurture your connections and provide value to other people, to the listeners, to clients, to anyone who's going to be listening and anyone who's going to be joining the podcast in the future, because I know that you are surrounded by a ton of wonderful people and talented people. And it's my honor to come on and share some ideas, share wisdom, share our story, hoping that we can provide value to, at least one person out there, and hopefully to a lot of people out there, and see people really, fulfill their dreams and have the best life they can possibly have with whatever it means for them to be successful. So I think there's a lot to take away from today, and even personally, because we come out here and then we always learning. We're always learning. A lot of the questions that you ask, some of the things are naturally in there all the time, but they also make me think a lot. So thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy and proud of this space that you have created. I can't wait to see the other guests that you have and listening in, and just continue to see your success as well, and continue to see creating magic for your couples and your clients, and be queens yourself in your own craft, in your own community, in your own space. So thank you so much again for having me today.
Thank you. Before we go, we need you to drop your socials. Where can your flower friends find you?
That's going to be an easy question for today. And everything is going to be House of Bernal. Instagram, House of Bernal. Website, House of Bernal. Facebook, House of Bernal. And if anyone wants to chat with me, a colleague, if you have any questions and you want to pick my brain, just send me an email to Jen, JENN, at houseofbernal.com. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I'm raising my cup to this queen. Let's go.
Okay, yes, this was such a good interview. Listen, my cup is empty. I'm sure y'all cups are empty. Just a couple of housekeeping. Please, please, please do not forget to subscribe, comment, questions, concerns. We will get everything over to Jen. You can hit her up online, through email, through her socials. Super fun fact, we all did the Fellowship for Change program together. So thank you, Wedding Pro.
Thank you, Wedding Pro.
Yes, for an amazing, amazing connection. And Jen, I'm not sure if you can drop this detail or not, but since we're dropping exclusives, we might as well just keep going. Where can we see you speaking in November? Somebody told me that you were going to be on the main stage in November, so I just need you to drop that so that people know where to find the kid.
Is this a Vegas exclusive?
I don't know. Let's see.
So we are honored and thrilled to be speaking at the Wedding MBA this year. Yours truly is going to be, thank you. Yours truly is going to be presenting at the Wedding MBA on flower specific tips and tricks for large floral installations. So I'll be seeing a lot of my colleagues, meeting new colleagues, and nurturing old relationships in there this November at the Wedding MBA in Las Vegas.
Yes. Okay. I just had to make sure you said that, honey. Yeah. I couldn't have said that better. You had to say it for yourself, for the people. Okay.
You're amazing.
Yes, we appreciate you. We are so excited for your growth. We are so excited for the stages you're going to walk across, from the people that you are going to impact, and from the influence that you are going to have from anyone under the sound of your voice. Okay.
Period.
Continue to speak life into all of us. And we just love you so much.
Thank you. Yes. I'm sending you a big, big hug. I love to see you today. And I'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Bye, guys. We'll see you on the next episode of Filtered Thru Coffee.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of Filtered Thru Coffee. We've enjoyed serving up some wedding wisdom with a splash of melanin and some culture. Until we sip again, remember, your wedding journey is like a perfectly brewed cup of coffee. Flavorful, bold, and uniquely yours.